Oh, check this out. Right here on the screen. Missiles inbound, rockets inbound. Some form of weaponry. This is Gaza. This is a live stream from Reuters. It says here, watch the Gaza skyline after Hamas launched rockets into Israel. So, as you can see, there's a lot of smoke in the area, as well as this new plume of smoke. I just saw something come down in what appeared to be the water. Most of them are striking over here and further over to the left, which you can't see, but the camera angle changes every now and again. Oh yeah. Did you see that? Right there on the coastline. Well, sort of a bay over here. Bunch of boats docked. I'm not sure what the target there is, but many targets through here. Much of Gaza has been evacuated, or at least people have been fleeing, as is understandable, and as they should if they do not want to be the human shields of Hamas. This is leading to much destruction, as you can see, death included, and it is all sad to see. And I'm not going to leave this playing. I mean, I'll leave it playing in the background, but I don't want to play all of their stream. Wow. Too close for comfort if I'm the guy up on the roof with this camera. There has been someone up there changing the angle, talking in the background, but it's just me talking right now. I'll click back into this if I hear more missiles. I heard a bunch earlier, like constantly. Less than every minute. I mean, within every minute, at least one bang was heard and a new plume of smoke to follow it. But then there wasn't much for a little while, and now, as you can see, or as you could see, it's picking up again. Interesting stuff, and you can just watch it for yourself. There are some other live streams, I believe. Daily Mail has a live stream up. Check that out. So hopefully no one is injured in all of that, unless it's a terrorist. Yes, this is the retaliation. The inevitable retaliation by Israel. Since there is no Iron Dome here, this could have happened a long time ago here in the Strip of Gaza, but it didn't, because it didn't need to be necessary. It has become necessary because of the terrible terrorist attack. And hopefully as many people have been and will continue to be evacuated, or at least flee, as possible. But I have seen some people down in the streets. Yes, I'm not feeling too great right now. It is after 2:30 in the morning for me. This is very random, I know. But I just wanted to follow up on my show from earlier in the day when I was on my lunch break. I didn't have time to break things down as thoroughly as I would have liked. So I'm just going to pull up a bit of additional information. More context on some of the things I talked about earlier. Like, subscribe, and enjoy the ride. There's not much to like about all of this, but yeah, I hope you stick around and find out what's going to happen next, either in this sad situation or any other less sad situation. So the Wall Street Journal said over 263,934 people in Gaza are believed to have fled their homes since fighting began on Saturday, according to the United Nations. Follow our live coverage here. So that's basically what you saw on the screen when I had the video pulled up. Like so. Another bang. Almost a ghost town, but not quite. I've seen, like I said, people walking around, vehicles driving by. Not sure what the hour is right now there. But yes, it's the middle of the night for me here in the state of Washington. I'd be interested to know where you're watching from. I'm not live streaming, of course, but this is a live stream here in front of me. I've just been keeping up with it. I've been working on this screen, had the live stream up on that screen, which you can't see. I decided to record a show, and right when I was about ready to press go, bang. So I just, pressed the button so you could see what I was seeing. Yes, back to this article from Wall Street Journal. Israel at war with Hamas. Live updates and analysis. Israel is preparing for a ground assault in Gaza following Hamas's attack on Saturday. And I know that is distracting, but it is what it is. Do you think that there will be a ground assault? And at what scale? If so, will Hamas be entirely eradicated? And if so, will other terror groups arise? I've seen that there are some mounting tensions in Lebanon right now. Some fighting over there. Not too far away, obviously, from all of this, but the latest. Israeli airstrikes reduced parts of Gaza to rubble as the military massed troops on the border in response to the incursion by Hamas. Casualties. Some 1,200 Israelis have died since the assault began. The United States said that at least 14 of its citizens had died. That's Americans. Gaza officials say 950 people have been killed by strikes. Israel said the bodies of around 1,500 Hamas fighters were found in Israel. Hostages. Yeah. Hamas said it abducted dozens of people, placing them inside Gaza to impede Israeli operations. Hamas has threatened to execute hostages. So as we learned in President Joe Biden's speech earlier in the day, which was more extensive than his previous speeches, which were few and far between, there have been some American hostages taken as well. We don't really know what state they're in, and I mean physical state, or how many of them there are. But we know that there are some, and I believe some of their family members have spoken out and named some of them, but some of that is a bit speculative because a lot of people don't know what has happened to their family, and even the ones who have been killed, well, some of them are unrecognizable because their bodies have been burned. Of course, I'm talking about Israelis for the most part. But yeah, a lot of sad things have happened. A lot of disturbing things have happened. A lot of disturbing perspectives are being shared online. And I'll cover a few of those, but I will add to this with this article from Fox News. Biden ripped for not mentioning Iran by name in speech on Hamas attacks. Utterly irresponsible and weak. And I spoke to this a bit earlier because I was recording shortly after he had given his speech. I didn't make a note at the time of the fact that he hadn't even mentioned Iran, but I did speak to Iran because I made the point that through some of our policies and prisoner swapping and loosening of sanctions and foreign relations generally speaking, yeah, well, we kind of greenlit them, and they kind of greenlit Hamas to carry out this terrorist attack. So in a roundabout way, we're weakening the state of the world as the United States. And at what point will it come back to bite us? Everyone has their narrative. People are talking about civil war online. I don't like to do that. If you want to hear somebody talk in that way, well, just listen to Tim Pool talking about civil war all the time. I don't like to do that, but I recognize that there are many wars in the world, and it seems like we are getting closer and closer to being directly involved in them. I can only speak for my own country here, but we're indirectly participating in them already in regards to, well, Russia, Ukraine, and now, obviously, Israel, Palestine. But this isn't all about the Palestinians. This is primarily about Hamas and their decisions, which have led to such an absurd amount of unnecessary death and destruction. As you can see, if you look pretty much anywhere across social media, I don't want to play too much for you here on YouTube. Might have some issues with that, but as for the rest of this article, I might just skip it, but I'll read this. Speaking from the White House and flanked by Vice President Harris and Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Biden vowed that the United States has Israel's back as it prepares for a ground invasion of the Gaza Strip just days after the Hamas terrorist group crossed the border and slaughtered Israeli civilians, including women, children, and babies. So we've been hearing about the beheading of babies, and certain members of Congress have been asked about this, members who have been simping not just for Palestine but for Hamas. By members I mean Rashida Tlaib, for example. She was asked by a reporter what she had to say about the slaughtering of babies by Hamas. She had nothing to say about it because she has chosen her path. The furthest she's going to go is to say, well, there should be a ceasefire. Everyone should stand down or something like that. Like, I get it. A lot of casualties, a lot of fatalities of war at this point, but it's what was in store. Hamas asked for war, and they got it. And now a lot of people are paying the consequences. Here's something that I didn't mention earlier. This is a story you might not have heard about. High-level Iranian spy ring busted in Washington. The Biden administration has now suspended Iran envoy Robert Malley, helped to fund, support, and direct an Iranian intelligence operation designed to influence the United States and allied governments, according to a trove of purloined Iranian government emails. I never can decide which way I want to say it. The emails, which were reported on by veteran Wall Street Journal correspondent Jay Solomon, writing in Semaphore, and by Iran International, the London-based immigrant opposition outlet, which is the most widely read independent news source inside Iran, were published last week after being extensively verified over a period of several months by the two outlets. They showed that Malley had helped to infiltrate an Iranian agent of influence named Ariane Tabatabai. I'm probably saying that wrong, but that's what I've got. Into some of the most sensitive positions in the United States government, first at the State Department, and now the Pentagon, where she has been serving as Chief of Staff for the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations, Christopher Mayer. And again, the headline reads, High-level Iranian spy ring busted in Washington. The trail that leads from Tehran to D.C. passes directly through the offices of Robert Malley and the International Crisis Group. This is another article worth reading, but I'm not going to proceed any further. This is from tabletmag.com. I wanted to run that by in case you hadn't heard it, and also because I forgot to mention it earlier when I was talking about Iran and our connections to them and their connections to, well, Hamas. Not to say that any of this is necessarily connected. It reminds me of the spy who had some relations with Congressman Eric Swalwell. And I believe there was a connection to Dianne Feinstein, the late Senator Dianne Feinstein, who had a Chinese spy, I believe, working for her for years. So these things happen, and you wonder where they lead, what people find out, what people pass on to their homeland, wherever that may be, and how that might come back to bite us. I can say that about Joe Biden's connections via his son in Ukraine and Russia and China. I would imagine a lot of people have dirt on the Bidens. And I saw something earlier in the day that was quite concerning to me. I guess I could pull that up. Let me do that. Something I would like to talk about in the not too distant future. It's just that, well, there's so much happening in Israel right now. I'm kind of focused on it, as is everyone else. But I did see this from America First Legal. Breaking: our FOIA lawsuit against the National Archives has now revealed that then Vice President Biden's office had 19,000, more than 19,000, but I'll just say the approximate number, rounding here, 19,000 emails with Rosemont Seneca. Yeah, which Hunter Biden was connected to, of course. 4,000 emails with Hunter Biden. 2,000 emails with Jim Biden. And 4,000 emails with Jim's Lion Hall group. There's more information about all of that. Hans Monick says, what's doubly sad here is that NARA claims they can't process this request in a timely manner because of the overwhelming number of emails involved. In other words, the more corrupt you are, the more you lie about it, the less transparency there is. So, word to the Bidens. Of course, the first impeachment inquiry hearing was happening just a couple of weeks ago, but so much has happened since then that has kind of bitten the dust, and it didn't go as well for the Republicans as they would have liked, but there was so much stuff buried in transit. I imagine some of this information might have increased the amount of evidence against the Bidens, but I'm just saying. Bad luck Biden is not exactly solving any of our foreign policy problems, if you ask me. And I think it all does come back to bite us, and it comes back to bite our allies, because they don't respect us, for one, and we're supposed to be the world leaders. So why would they respect those we're leading? I had this pulled up a moment ago because I had it pulled up earlier in the day, in my previous show. This post that BLM Chicago put out on their X account. They said, that is all that is it. And there's this image of someone parachuting in. It says, "I stand with Palestine." The flag on top of the parachute. So, I didn't really emphasize what this was a reference to, but I did talk about the land, sea, air attack by Hamas, and they're parachuting there. Yeah. Gliding right in across the border there and butchering people, including babies. But this is what BLM, or at least this sector of it, supports. And for people who are especially ridiculous, and have since deleted their comments, well, I'll just add that there was someone in the comments asking, what does this have to do with Hamas? Not realizing that this image is literally a representation of what Hamas has done in their terrorist activities. So yes, this is a direct celebration of the actions of Hamas, not just a standing with Palestine, a statement of standing with Palestine. It's an outright celebration of the worst Palestinians. And, you know, whether you want to call them actual Palestinians or just the new ISIS or something like that. Well, they're not new. They're old, if anything. Hamas has been around since the 80s. But here, readers added context saying, on October 7 of 2023, Hamas terrorists and paragliders, that's the parachutes, attacked a music festival in Israel, killing over 260 people. There are a couple of linked articles. Obviously, many more people than that died, but that's just a reference to the one event there in Israel, which was supposed to represent peace. I'm not much of a partier, but I'm all about that peace. But I guess BLM is not. So speaking of BLM, earlier I had pulled up the blacklivesmatter.org website looking for additional statements on the matter, and I could not find any. But because this had to do with Grassroots, which you can find if you dig deeper, and not the particular website, blacklivesmatter.org website. I did some more digging. I dug here on their BLM Grassroots website, which is referenced all over their Black Lives Matter website, which I was on earlier. The websites are connected, in other words. One is Black Lives Matter, the other is BLM Grassroots. Both are org.org. So you can find either one of them easily. Here's their logo up at the top. So I was aware of some other statements they had made on their social media, and I thought I might find them here. I didn't find them here either, but I just wanted to show you this website. And then this. Their connected BLM Grassroots Instagram page, which has the following statements. Black Lives Matter Grassroots statement in solidarity with the Palestinian people. Okay, so how far are they going to go with this? They continue. As the world is faced with deep questions about self-determination, as we all desire and pray for a world of peace, we must stand unwaveringly on the side of the oppressed. When a people have been subject to decades of apartheid and unimaginable violence, notice how they don't mention the terrorist attack. The resistance must not be condemned. In fact, their point here is that the terrorist attack itself should not be condemned. They say that the terror, well, that comes from resistance to apartheid and unimaginable violence. Yeah. They say that's, well, That's all to be blamed on Israel, right? And therefore, Palestine is to be celebrated, and therefore, Hamas is to be celebrated as though they represent the Palestinian people. No, they do not. They just get them killed. They do not care about their own people. They do not care about you and your opinion of them. As much as you may simp for them, they do not care about you. In fact, most of the stuff you represent, since you're all about the, well, LGBTQ rainbow coalition, for example, well, they do not support that at all. So you think that you stand with them. They don't even stand with you. They don't. They may get behind this Black Lives Matter endeavor because it's a claim to victimhood. It's a marginalization movement. You think just because you're a minority, you can look around and pick and choose between other supposed minorities and then just create narratives based upon your created connection, your predetermined conclusions, and you think you're on the right side of history, but you're not. Keep all that in mind as I continue to read this. I'll start back here with this sentence. When a people have been subject to decades of apartheid and unimaginable violence, their resistance must not be condemned, but understood as a desperate act of self-defense. Okay. So Israel is not acting in self-defense right now and trying to take out the terrorists. But the terrorists are acting in self-defense. Yeah. You must have been a big fan of Hitler. Whoever wrote this must have been a big fan of Hitler. Right? He had that same energy, that same anti-Semitic energy. There's been a lot of that energy from Kanye West to your next door neighbor, presumably. No, I would hope that most people have enough common sense to notice the nonsense in all of this. And if you read through the comments, you can see how much support they're losing. Even people who have paid Black Lives Matter, BLM money in the past are now like, I'm out the door. But they have a whole slideshow here for you. Black Lives Matter Grassroots stands in solidarity with our Palestinian family who are currently resisting 57 years of settler colonialism and apartheid. As black people continue to fight to end militarism and mass incarceration in our own communities, let us understand the resistance in Palestine as an attempt to tear down the gates of the world's largest open-air prison. Largest open-air prison. So, you view Gaza as an open-air prison. Well, you know who is in control of that prison? Hamas. They're to blame for all of this. That's just the truth. As a radical black organization grounded in abolitionist ideals, we see clear parallels between black and Palestinian people. You see what you want to see in order to maintain your victim status. How convenient that you're able to pretend that what you're going through right now is what they're going through. You know, you who have raked in millions and millions of dollars only to put out propaganda like this after people are slaughtered. Okay, like I said earlier, only one side is celebrating the death of those on the other side. And I shouldn't have to explain who is who there. You know. We too understand what it means to be surveilled, dehumanized, property seized, families separated, our people criminalized and slaughtered with impunity, locked up in droves, and when we resist, they call us terrorists. So what are you saying? Are you equating yourselves to the actual terrorists in this story? I mean, do you have something planned that we should know about? If so, then you should be locked up. You should be imprisoned. But no, if you equate yourselves to the terrorists who were, say, chopping off the heads of babies over in Israel, I can't emphasize enough how delusional you are. We too dream of a world where our people may live freely on decolonized land. May the borders, checkpoints, prisons, police, and watch lists that terrorize our communities crumble. May the world we build from their ashes honor those who have fallen in struggle. So they are eating up all the death and destruction. They want more of it. Talking about building from the ashes. Calling that an honor. Okay. I mean, free speech, to each their own, but you have lost it. How many people agree with this? When I'm scrolling through social media on X, for example, I'm seeing a lot of people getting behind the propaganda. They could skip past any number of cruelties directed towards the Jews and pretend that they're all, I don't know, just fair and square, I suppose. But then if one single anecdotal detail seems to fit their narrative, they're like, oh, this is what people need to be focused on. This is it. This proves everything I've been claiming. No, it does not. It proves that you're delusional, maybe. For lasting peace to come, the entire apartheid system must be dismantled. The war on the Palestinian people must cease. We call on the United States government to immediately stop funding war and redirect the $4 billion in annual spending from the Israeli military to repair the damage caused by U.S.-backed wars, military airstrikes, coups, and destabilizing interventions against oppressed people around the world. I would be interested to know if they are opposed to the support of Ukraine as well, since they say immediately stop funding war, which we are doing in various places, various portions of the world, and war. It would just be interesting to know whether or not they keep the same energy, like ever, or if they're just always self-contradicting. But backtracking to this slide here, the screenshot, where they speak to themselves as black people, I guess, although a lot of people behind these movements turn out to be white people sometimes, seems like. You know, lefty white people who apparently have more white fragility than anyone else. They say that they are being colonized. Black people are being colonized? I mean, I would understand a little bit more if you were arguing on behalf of Native Americans about colonialization, but it seems like a little bit of a stretch. And if all you have to go to is mass incarceration, I mean, there's a little bit of mass criminal activity going on, if you haven't noticed. A lot of people deserve to be locked up, even more than have been locked up, because people getting out over and over and over again on stupid bail and bond loopholes and just, you know, blue state buffoonery. Well, that's leading to more and more crime all the time. And so I'm not sure exactly what your solution to anything is, but apparently it's terrorism. Apparently that's your solution. And if you say that's what you're dealing with, if you say, on the one hand, that you celebrate, not just support, but celebrate what the terrorists of Hamas did in Israel, and you're equating yourself to the Palestinians, then what you're saying is that you would support terrorist activity in your own country. If a 9/11, say if a 9/12 occurred, just figure of speech, you would apparently be supportive of it. As would, say, Khalifa, who has been in the news. I do not care a bit about her, but from members of Congress to porn stars, I guess you could call her, as little twinkle as she may have. Yeah, this is narrative that has been making its rounds propagandistically. So there's an article from New York Post. I might pull it up. But Kenny Webster said, Khalifa was fired as she was after she said the things that she had to say. But Rashida Tlaib remains in office. The standards are higher at Playboy than they are in the United States Congress. So that's an interesting point, right? Again, freedom of speech, but at what point are you yelling fire in a crowded theater or outright pulling a fire alarm like Congressman Bowman did just a couple of weeks ago? So yeah, here's this article from the New York Post. Not congressionally speaking, but this is about Maya Khalifa. I don't really care to see her cleavage on the screen, so my apologies if this article has that to offer. Playboy fires Maya Khalifa after porn star expressed support for Hamas, though they would never support her in Palestine, would they? So yeah, more of that delusion I've been speaking on. Playboy has cut ties with porn star Maya Khalifa over her disgusting and reprehensible support of Hamas, in which she even urged terrorists to film their atrocities, as they did in some cases. And there she is. And here is some of her comments. You know what? This stream is acting up. It's freezing. It's buffering. Stream from Reuters, so I'll exit out of it and get back to this article. I got to speed up this process a bit because I got to go to bed. I'm exhausted and potentially sick. She said, "I can't believe the Zionist apartheid regime is being brought down by guerrilla fighters in fake Gucci shirts. The biopics of these moments better reflect that." Okay. That's not all she had to say. Here is what I initially saw from her. "This is a Renaissance painting," she said, as the terrorists were taking over and slaughtering innocent civilians left and right, as many as they could. And that's not it either. There's another tweet from her, another post from her. If I can find it, well, you know what? It's right here in this New York Post thumbnail. She said, "Can someone please tell the freedom fighters in Palestine to flip their phones and film horizontal?" All right, so basically she was telling Hamas, members of Hamas, if I'm not mistaken, to film horizontally instead of vertically. So the murders would be more visible. Isn't that what she meant? What else would she have meant by that? She called them freedom fighters, and they're the ones who are fighting, right? Committing acts of terrorism, if you call that fighting for freedom. Good luck in the afterlife. But that's what she's on. Now for the members of Congress. Rashida Tlaib. I did put up an edit about her, some of the things that she has had to say or not say, as a reporter asked for her comment on the beheading of children, the beheading of babies. Well, I put up an edit on my other channel, my Articulate Thinker News Clips channel. Check out that video if you haven't already done so. Here's this article, another article from the New York Post about her, though. Representative Rashida Tlaib slammed for Palestinian flag outside Capitol office as fellow lawmaker pushes for ban. She also has a pride flag up. And once again, that is something that is not exactly allowed in the area which they are simping for. Not that they truly support human life. You know, these are people who don't value the concept of human life. These are people who have essentially extended their view on abortion up to beyond the birth canal, you know, to babies who have been beheaded. Because they don't view those babies as human life either. Just clumps of cells, I guess, right? Or they're just inconvenient for your narrative, your propagandistic narrative. So they could die for all you care. Listen, I'm not excited to see any Palestinian die. I'm simply saying that it is the fault of Hamas, who have been pushing their limits for years and years and years. The reason why there is so much of a struggle, such a separation between Israel and Palestine, is because of extremists. So being an extremist yourself is not going to unify anyone. I guess that's not your intention. Your intention is eradication. Thus the death to Israel chants. When you hear that, you chant along in your mind or out loud. If you're Maya Khalifa or Rashida Tlaib, that's what you want to hear. That's what you want to happen. That's what you want to see. And it sickens me. It does. Rashida Tlaib has been ripped for displaying a Palestinian flag outside her capital office, even after the slaughter of innocent Israelis by Hamas terrorists, leading a fellow lawmaker to formally push to end the silliness. The outspoken squad member, who is of Palestinian descent, went viral late Monday when a photo of a flag shared by a Washington Examiner reporter was viewed more than 2 million times. And I don't really care to read the rest of this article either. There's a photo of her. You do not see the pride flag in that photo, but she can't have it both ways. She can't have it all those ways. Now, it's one thing to support Palestinians. I get it. Not all of them are supportive of what is going on over there or what Hamas is doing. Some of them, I'm sure, have been indoctrinated to the point where they do, or they just don't feel like they have much of a choice, or it's just what they believe, and they're just not quite as extreme to the point of acting in the terrorism. But I would imagine a lot of people, just like Rashida Tlaib, are over there. Not trying to lump everyone together, but hey. I just wanted to show you this map because Lebanon has been in the news a bit more lately. Some fighting over there has occurred. I might talk about that in the near future. I just want to have my ducks in a row. I want to make sure I'm accurate. There's so much disinformation, misinformation floating around out there. It's hard to know what is what. But yes, Lebanon up here you see. And obviously my face is in the way of most of the map. So what can I do about that? Drag it over a little bit. Israel. Gaza Strip over here by the sea, Mediterranean Sea. And so on and so forth. So this could spread out a bit more depending on what happens with Iran. Syria, Saudi Arabia was in talks with Israel, I guess. Thinking about making some deals that Hamas was not really a fan of. Well, I should say Iran was not really a fan of. But we need to be less reliant on other countries for our oil and so on and so forth. But also we need to lock down on the sanctions. We need to freeze up those funds which we unlocked, which the Biden administration unlocked for Iran. And yes, that is my cat in the corner of the screen. You just saw him yawn if you were looking closely. Now he's licking my hand. I think a lot of things need to happen. I'm no expert, so I don't claim to know it all. I guess I just have opinions like everyone else, and I like to think that mine are not delusional. But you can feel free to disagree with me. Let me know in the comments below what you think, what you know. I'll be back tomorrow with some more information, I suppose. I have so much stuff I'd like to talk about. I just wanted to share a few bits of information with you. Hopefully you find it interesting. Unfortunately so, because, yeah, this is going to go on for a little while. Will a ground incursion follow? A ground assault follow? Will the hostages, which have been taken, Israeli and American hostages, and anyone else who has been taken hostage, will they be rescued or released? Will we negotiate with terrorists? Will we eradicate the terrorists? You tell me. Should I use this as a thumbnail, or will people think that this is what I think? I don't think they will. I'll use this as a thumbnail. Gotta go. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace. Peace.